I'm delighted to welcome today Susan Gardner. And Susan, you're known as the life surgeon. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see you, Elaine.
So the first question is going to be very obvious to the listeners. What is a life surgeon?
Yeah, well, it conjures up all sorts of images, doesn't it? And it's funny actually because I've tried out a few different names over the years, and I think it was in one of those conversations with my husband where it came up. It was so obvious, health detective has been another one, but the nature of the work that I do requires me to really look into different elements of someone's lifestyle. There's as we know, we're all individuals, and there's lots of different things that go on in someone's life which contribute to that life experience, either negatively or positively. And because my work is all around helping someone to identify what the root cause of their health challenge may be, we sometimes have to poke about a bit in these different areas, so that we can really get to the bottom of what it is that may be contributing to the issues that person is struggling with. So, the idea of what a surgeon does, it seemed to fit quite nicely, because I'm a bit of a nosy Parker, which you have to be as a coach, as you well know, Elaine.
It's a
Yeah.
bit like being an investigator, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Be really curious, and it's what I encourage people to do anyway. Naturally, just yeah, be curious, be questioning about things in life which may have become so familiar that you actually don't really recognize whether it's of any help or support. It might have been at one time, but we get so habituated, I think is quite a nice word to describe it. But these things, they can be positively supporting us, or they can actually be the very thing that needs to change. So
Habituated. I've not heard that word before. Did you just make that up?
yeah.
So okay, so basically you help people by asking questions, being nosy, about their life in general. So what kind of people come to see you? Or when I say come to see you, I'm obviously I'm using the term loosely now. It's a case of pressing a button and you pop on the screen, I guess.
Yeah, well, yes, and interestingly, I've worked with an organisation called the Crisis Effect for well over 10 years, and our work has been centred online, um, all this time anyway. So I'm very familiar with working with my clients in this way. I have clients all over the world, as I was mentioning earlier. I've just been working with someone based in Arizona. And it's brilliant because it means that we can help people who, wherever they are. Um, it's lovely to be face to face with people. I do have to say that's an important part of me, actually seeing someone, being close to them. However, for a lot of people, we've had to adjust and adapt, and unfortunately, I've not had quite as much adaptation to do, because it's something that I'm already used to, and it's very effective. Yeah.
So what kind of questions do you ask when somebody comes to see you? What type of people come to see you, and what type of questions do you ask them?
Well, I work with a lot of business women, and teachers, interestingly, and other coaches. They seem to be the three sort of main areas where I find people um, somehow find me. I know a lot come through the Chrysis Effect itself, because we focus on um, the recovery of ME, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue. So it's very fatigue, pain related issues, which typically I find are connected with stressful situations, trauma, um, unresolved trauma, unprocessed trauma. Yeah, it's such a big thing, which consistently comes up for a lot of people, and often they don't even realise, Elaine, that
Mm.
that there's been a trauma. The body is an amazing piece of biological equipment, which, of course, is designed to keep us safe. And often trauma in that moment in time for someone gets encapsulated. And so it's just a way of keeping that person safe in that moment. But unless it's processed, unless it's acknowledged and dealt with at some point in time, and sooner rather than later, then it can become a real big problem for someone further down the line, which shows up in all sorts of ways. But often, there's lots of signs, there's lots of signals. But certainly for women who I work a lot with, they soldier on because they're
Mm.
super women.
I know it's ridiculous, isn't it? And we don't, myself included, in years gone by, we just kind of go, oh well, pull up pull up a big girl pants, get on with it. We're tough old birds, and off we go. But of course, we're not realising at the time, because we've got a point to prove, we've got things to do, people reliant upon us, and we feel that we've got to take the world on our shoulders. We just soldier on, as you say, and we don't listen to or even notice the signs that our body is giving us. So you've mentioned fibromyalgia, ME, fatigue. That comes up a lot on people who join the Perfect Health Wellness Club on Facebook. And the is there an easy kind of fix to that kind of thing? Apart, we can't unwind the clock back and just say, well, don't work too hard or don't take on too much stress. Once they're in it, how do they get out of it?
Well, the first point is awareness. And once we become aware of our circumstances, then we have a choice. We have a choice whether or not we are willing and open-minded. I say, if you're neither of those, then you can't work with me, because it's not gonna happen. And that's, we have to open up to the part that we are responsible for, the part that we play within all of this, because actually that's what empowers us. Once we recognize that, what, there's only me inside of me, and I'm the one who's making those decisions. I'm the one who's choosing to keep going on in that way, in that direction, with that person, with those people. And that clearly something needs to change there. So it's recognizing where your priorities are. What are your values? Understanding all these elements are really helpful, if not essential, to knowing where you are versus where you want to be, and what actually needs to be put in place in order to get to where you want to be. But it's breaking it down, chunking it down into easy, manageable steps. So, and you know what? It's just, you start from where you are. You start from where you are, and be easy on yourself. Be gentle. Be kind to yourself, just as you would someone else. Somebody else that you love. We find that we're often our harshest critic, and we're giving ourselves such a hard time. and not giving ourselves that love and appreciation, which is at the heart of it.
So awareness is key for everything, isn't it? And when you're aware of something, you can deal with it. I also add measurements in with the work that I do now with my mentoring, and because a lot of people don't believe when somebody from the outside looking in and saying, well, you know, have you thought about this or that, or you know, whatever, when they see measurements of things that relate to them personally, they then start to wake up and go, okay, well, here I am. This is my starting point, or this is my kind of base level now, so that they can then measure how they're improving. So, do you have any kind of physical things that you do with clients so that they can see their improvement apart from feed? I mean, I presume over a period of time they'll notice visibly the difference in and improvement in their health. But are there any other things that you use with them?
Absolutely. When I'm working online with clients, then what we're looking at are what I refer to as the 4 key pillars of their health and wellness, which is the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. So we're always keeping an eye on those areas as to how much energy they may be investing in those areas, how much time they may be investing in those areas, which relate right across the board to all aspects of their lives. And we simply measure by checking in on a 0 to 10 ratio, and it's so effective. So we can see that there is this lovely flow, you know, and there can be, instead of these sharp peaks and troughs, they start to even out more. And it's, life is full of ups and downs, but it's about how quickly we can get ourselves back into the center, how quickly we can normalize things, how quickly we can feel more in control of things. So those peaks and troughs become much more shallow, in terms of there's less of a contrast that's going on with those things. And actually, the dramas become less as well, because we're just managing things so much better and we make better decisions as a consequence. So that's how I would work when I'm working online with people, in terms of measuring where they are and helping them to recognize. And they can, you know, the most important thing is what they do outside these sessions. It's what they're doing in between. So they can easily use that to keep themselves on track. When we are able to meet up physically, I actually am a thermobuzzer practitioner, technician. So I use the thermography as a very visual tool, which creates a snapshot of your body. So we can see what hot spots and cold spots are showing up. And that is a fantastic visual measurement. You know, we humans, we love to see it, don't we? We love those X-rays, or you know, whatever it is, because there's almost that human fascination about, we know what we can see on the surface, but when it's inside of us, we get a bit fearful. You know, it's like, oh, don't know what's going on there. But that's that trust, isn't it? You know, building a trust in yourself and your body's natural ability to heal, to adjust and adapt. The more that we are in line with that and know that our body is on our side, you know, its aim is just to survive, so it will do what's necessary. It's never going wrong. And the thermography really helps to consolidate that, so you can really see the work that you do, call it work, you know, the changes that you make, however small or however big, over time and quickly, it makes a difference. So you actually see with your own eyes, you know, the hot spots and the cold spots becoming less prominent. It's changing, which it's that shows up more stressors that are going on in the body. The thermography I use is not medical thermography. It is purely for analysis to support the health coaching that I do. So I hope that gives you a little insight.
Sure. So would you use the thermography tool that you have for in place of mammography, for example?
I have people who come to me who use it in that way, in terms of it's not a replacement, just to be clear, because that is a different level of a diagnosis analysis. What it does do is it really helps you to see where you're at, keeping yourself on track on that level, the level that I'm working at in terms of that health coaching experience. That is a very different type of thermography. But you know, it's something, I guess, which is much more accessible for a lot of people, because for one thing, the cost is much less, and if there was any obvious signs that came up in the sessions that someone wanted to go and investigate further, then naturally they could. So it can just mean that someone can use the type of thermography that I offer in between medical thermography scans. So you know, it's there in terms of, from a positive approach to it. It's what we do is all about looking for the ways that will support that person naturally, which helps them through the circumstances which may well have triggered the situation in the first place. So that's what the aim is through the meta approach, is to get to the root cause and really understand all the ramifications around that. And the body is so clever in how it is always signaling to us what, and reflecting what is happening in our lives through our lifestyles. So there is a direct correlation between lifestyle themes and certain parts of the body. And it's absolutely fascinating how that works time and time again. And I can quote and reference thousands of case study data, empirical case study data, which supports this.
And the thermography shows up inflammation. You were talking about hotspots, but in essence, I guess it's inflammation, is it, that you're seeing?
It can be inflammation. It can be tension, stress, which shows up. You know, it's a bit like right this moment when the dog walked through the door, I felt a bit of a whoosh. So if I was to have a scan taken of me right now, on the surface, it would show up, depending on the color palette used, but it would show that warmth up. But we know exactly in that moment what it was that triggered that. So what gets really interesting is when somebody comes, let's say, on a weekly basis, then you start to be able to see patterns which can correlate strongly with that person's typical routines. So we can really get clear on what are the factors here that continue to drive this this situation, which is causing the body to respond, to react in this way. Because we can choose to ignore it, which is what we tend to do. But my recommendation is get inquisitive about it, get curious, and and look beneath it. You know, how is this actually supporting you? Is it something that really, now that it's come to your attention, would you be better off not being involved with it, you know, removing it completely from your life, or bringing something else in, you know, getting someone else to support you, resources, whatever it is. We just need to keep open-minded, to be allow ourselves to get better informed. Then we make better decisions, especially when it's our health and wellness. That is, you know, what it's all about. Without that, as you well know, what have we got if we haven't got our health?
So, do people ever recover from fibromyalgia in ME?
Oh, yes.
Because it's a myth, isn't it? A lot of people own their condition and they become victims. And I've met, as I'm sure you have, many people over the years, you know, oh, I have this, I have that. And it's almost like if they didn't have this or that, who are they? You know, what's their life? They've got nothing behind them.
Yes, unfortunately, we know that a lot of diagnoses become labels, don't they? And it's sadly, it can be a bit of a badge of honor. And that's not decrying those who are really challenged and struggle with their health. What I would like to just say is that whatever's going on for you, there's always something that you can do. There's always someone else who knows more than the person that you may be dealing with. So never give up. Never ever give up. There's always something, I promise you.
Wonderful. So, how did you get into this work, Susan?
Well, it was, I think I've always been fascinated by the human body, the mind, people. People fascinate me. And I think my tipping point was when I had my own personal crisis, when I was in the corporate arena about 20 plus years ago now. And basically, long and short of it was a lot of pressure. I was working the candle day at both ends, you know, and had my own little breakdown, and realized that, you know, I had to do something different. I had to make some big changes. I came out of that world, and I reverted to hairdressing, which is where my journey started. And that was my salvation for a little while. But then Reiki found me. I put it that way, and from being quite black and white about the way that I saw and viewed life, and you know, a lot of things that was quite indoctrinated through my upbringing. I learned through having a Reiki treatment that there was something else going on. There was something else that I couldn't explain, and that really brought another element for me to get excited about, and it made me feel so much better. And so, you know, that was it. That was the beginning of my holistic therapy journey, where I was intrigued by all these alternative possibilities and practices and potential. It just was fascinating to me. And I realized that my world that had been like this suddenly opened up into this magnificent vista. It's like, oh, I was like a kid in a sweet shop, you know, which course can I do now? Which workshop, you know? And so, of course, became that eternal student, which eventually led me to the Chris's Effect and the Meta Health University. And those two organizations have been my final stabilizers, where I did my coaching training. And we have a visitor.
You have the dog, I've got the cats. Yeah.
Exactly.
This is Martha. Martha was semi-feral, and she's adopted me. So when she comes in, she comes in a couple of times a day to check up that I'm still here, and she's about to go and have a lay down now. I think she's fed up. Oh, not fed up. She's had her feed. You know, I don't know. I mean, years gone by, we never would have allowed, would we, a cat and a dog to intervene in a conversation. But I mean, how life has changed.
Exactly. It's so normal, isn't it? Having them part of the
I,
conversation.
I spoke to a chap this morning on a customer services line, and in the background there was a child screaming, and obviously, clearly, the man was working from home, so he sorted out what the problem was, and you know, anything else I can help you with? I said no. I said, but I do hope you have a better day with your child. I said, how old is your son or daughter? And he said, oh, coming up for 2, and he's teething. So again, there's kind of more humanness in conversations now, which you never would have had, you know, had all this, you know, debacle happened. So there's lots of positives that come out. There's an awful lot of terrible things, but there's a lot of positives, and I'm sure it's all going to end up a lot better. So when you were in corporate, Susan, what did you do?
Oh, I was in sales and marketing in a credit information services company. Yes, that showed me a whole different arena. And yeah, I actually really enjoyed working in that industry. I learned an awful lot, but I also saw a lot of very stressed people and people doing extraordinary things under pressure, and you know, it really so I recognized the part that it played in my own health journey. And but you know what, I think even if somebody had said, Susan, you need to go and see a health coach, um, I don't think I would have listened to them or taken them up on it. um, you know, whatever had been said to me, I think that was part of my problem. I was quite belligerent and quite, you know, a D. I'm a, you know, in yes.
In the disc behavioural,
Yeah,
yeah,
that,
which I am as well, obviously.
yeah, it's
I'm a DI, which I think you are as well. Are you a DI?
yeah. Well, I'm quite across the board, but you know, what I notice in my personality is that something will trigger me, and the D comes out, and something will trigger me, and I'm more I, you know. So yeah, I can flow with it, but yes, it is interesting how it can either work for you or work against you, and it tends to work against you when you don't understand it, and
Yes, yeah.
to
I
go
was
through
saying
it.
to, I
It's
was saying
life.
to somebody the other day that I make no apology for my behaviour, because my behaviour pattern, my behavioural profile has saved my life. Turning stage 4 cancer around in 14 weeks. Had I not had the resilient, tough cookie type approach to life, then, you know, maybe maybe I wouldn't be here now. But again, I see patterns in, you know, in behaviour, and that's why I do the DISC model and relate it to health and well-being. And I'm sure you see with your clients the type of behaviours. There seems to be some quite stark differences in personality styles and what people are predisposed towards. Have you found patterns?
Yeah, definitely. We use the DISC profiling within our work. We certainly have an awareness, and we do offer that as a further additional learning to clients where we can see that it's obviously going to support them. Yeah, it's amazing. Again, you know, there's no, apart from if you've come across the type A, have you heard that?
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of our clients are what we refer to as type A's, who tend to be driven, and yeah, it's like, you know, the Yorkshire Terrier got the bone between the teeth, and um, there is that element of go 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 go, you know. So but the disc, they can be all over there. So yeah, it is interesting. But it's multifaceted, isn't it? I mean, I know you know quite a bit about ME fibromyalgia as well, Elaine, and there's it takes people a long time to get any diagnosis, and that's because there are so many facets to it. You know, you could have 100 people in that same room who've been diagnosed with, let's say, fibromyalgia, and each and every one of those people will tell you that they have this symptom, that symptom, or a combination of symptoms, and they're all different. They're all different. Um, but the common denominator for fibromyalgia is the pain. You know, the pain that they feel, and often, not always, but often it's trauma related. So
Yeah.
we do emotional trauma release. Yeah.
Also, with the work that I do supporting people through cancer, those who have got gentle personality styles that take on the world, that they absorb everybody else's stuff, then they end up getting cancer for various different reasons. You know, there's not one reason why people get cancer, as we know, but they end up struggling to come to terms with emotional trauma because they think they've absorbed everything and they're fine. But then when you start unraveling things, and if they're not getting better, they're not recovering how they should be doing, and then they finally wake up to the fact that they need to see somebody outside of the family, you know, not me, not somebody that's supporting them in other ways, somebody completely away from any other connection that they have, who can then work with them to unravel the deep trauma, which very often goes back to childhood, doesn't it? And we've contained it with us, you know, for years and years, and that impairs our healing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and cancer is something that has been it's because it's been very close to home. It's more on my mother's side of the family. Um, I've had a huge interest in understanding the things that lead to someone going down that pathway, if you like. And I have to say that the teachings of Meta Health lifestyle prescriptions is what's helped me really understand um, what the the connections were for my mother in particular. You know, just to single her out. I had a clue, I had an inkling even at the time, and this was before I'd done any studying whatsoever. I wasn't into any of this. But you know, what it helped me do was really dot the I's and cross the T's, and actually connect all those dots. And I think if we can actually interrupt those cycles, when we get enough clues from these signs and symptoms, we can actually interrupt that cancer pathway, you know. And really, I mean, what an amazing thing. This is something that is real and that we can do. You know, why wait until we get a diagnosis? You know, let us, you know, if there's stuff going on that needs attention, that needs support or discussion or debate or whatever it requires, and there's lots of different techniques out there which will suit, you know, there's always something for someone. If that doesn't suit, there's something else. Promise you again, there's always something that can be done to support you and to turn it around. Better doing it sooner rather than later. But yes, that really helped me um, fully understand and appreciate my own mother's journey. I was never inside of her. I don't know what her actual thoughts were, but I knew enough around the circumstances which really triggered her cancer journey, and to that conclusion. Unfortunately, I wish I'd known what I know now then, but
Tell me about it. Yeah.
No,
every one of my family members who've all died with various different things, now, but we didn't know what we didn't know then, did we? So, and even then there's no guarantee we could have helped.
No.
And also you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, the old adage. And a lot of people come to me and I suggest things that they could be doing to help themselves, and then 3 years later they come back to me and I said, well, what have you been doing? And then their condition has got worse. So I find it difficult. Well, obviously I support them, but I just say to them, you really have to tackle this now. You can't pussyfoot around. Being kind, soft and gentle is all well and good. But unless you're changing something, which you said earlier on, you can't carry on doing the same thing and expect something different. You have to make changes. And if you don't make changes, which starts with awareness of what you're doing and what you can possibly change. So again, having a health coach outside, or as you describe yourself, a life surgeon. I love that title. I think that's great. So how can people get hold of you, Susan? Where are you based and how can people get hold of you?
Right. Well, I'm based just south of Derby, north of Birmingham, if you are familiar with that area. So we're in between Burton and Uttoxeter specifically, in a lovely rural location. So normally I run retreats, and it's a fantastic way of really helping someone get their journey to recovery underway, and establish some very good practices, some really healthy habits. So that's certainly the sort of thing that I love doing and supporting people in. Otherwise, online, as we're doing now, we have some fantastic programs which get you from A to B. Wherever you are, we can help you. So you'll get all my details from metawellbeing.com. Yeah, everything's there really. I have a YouTube channel, so there's different videos on there, support videos, resources, the usual social media places, all under Meta Wellbeing. So yeah, give me a call.
Marvellous. Okay, so Susan Gardner, the life surgeon, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. It's been my pleasure. Thank you.